After being named WBA's #1 middleweight contender, Michael Zerafa has no plans of slowing down, and for good reason. In today's video, let's break it all down. Starting with why Zerafa believes that the World Championship is waiting for him. Michael Zerafa is on his way to the top, there's no denying it. Not just with the WBA, but Zerafa is also ranked 2 in the IBF and 6th in the WBO, which gives him all the more reason to be confident in his skill. In the athlete's own words, "I've got 3 world titles and a guaranteed spot to fight for one of them now." Of course, this guaranteed spot is for the World Championship. While this might sound like a far-fetched idea to some, Zerafa is patiently waiting for things to unfold so he can make his way to the top. But wait till you hear what the boxer has to say about his potential opponent in the coming future, because Zerafa wants to fight a boxing icon. Michael Zerafa recently went on the record to talk about how he might be going up against one of the biggest names in the game. And if you were wondering who I'm talking about, it's no other than the legendary Golovkin. And well, this fight with Golovkin is the one Zerafa is the most interested in. Since 2022, this potential fight with Golovkin is all that the athlete can talk about. In fact, he even went on the record to say that he has a verbal agreement in place with the Kazakhstani players' team regarding the future fight. But of course, Golovkin himself hasn't really made any moves. Michael went on to say that Golovkin thinks he's an easy fight. But here's the surprising thing. Zerafa is absolutely okay with that. Why? Well, Triple G is one of the best players in the game. Gennady Golovkin, also known as Triple G, is one of the greatest professional boxers of all time. Why do I say that? Well, because not only is he a former unified middleweight world champion, but he has also held the IBF, WBA, and WBC titles. And as great of an athlete as Zerafa is, his stats just don't match up to Golovkin's right now. He knows that too. Fighting the current holder of the WBA Super and IBF middleweight belts is no joke. But what he lacks in stats, Zerafa definitely makes up for in confidence. Zerafa knows he's Triple G's biggest payday. In the words of the athlete himself, the 3 options that Golovkin has in front of him right now are Lara, Falcao, and Michael himself. And going by these names, the one who represents the most money is definitely Michael. And why would Triple G ever turn that down? Arislandi Lara is the WBA regular champion. This will give Zerafa the chance to take on Falcao for the IBF title that's now vacant. The second option is for him to go ahead and defend his title against Falcao. But there's more to this option, since it will open the opportunity for Zerafa to then fight Lara for the WBA. The third, and the most attractive option in Zerafa's eyes, is for Triple G to fight him for the WBA title. Why? Well, because the people backing him are willing to give Triple G the $10 million the champion wants for the fight. I mean, who wouldn't be interested after hearing this number? According to Zerafa, the seasoned boxer is definitely considering coming to Melbourne and fighting for the belt. Zerafa versus Triple G even has a nice ring to it. Regardless of whatever happens though, Michael is pretty sure that his next fight will be for a world title, no matter what happens. But when will we know for sure? It all depends on Triple G. Boxing enthusiasts might want to skip out on Valentine's Day celebrations this year. Why? Well, that's because February 14th is the day of the ultimate decision, whether Golovkin will be stripped of his title or if he will get to defend it. We can only know the match lineup once this happens. Anything before that is just speculation. And speaking of speculation, one boxer is already thinking of the future. Zerafa knows exactly what he needs to do. It looks like no player has entered the year with a clearer head than Zerafa himself. The athlete knows exactly what he wants this season. And well, by the looks of it, he's not afraid to go and get it. Speaking of his potential opponents for the world title, Zerafa has gone on the record to explain his strategy. The athlete believes that, stylistically, Golovkin suits him perfectly. Zerafa thinks that Golovkin doesn't have too high of a pace, which might give him an advantage. Something tells us he's really underestimating Triple G's knockout power. Speaking of Lara, Zerafa actually considers him to be a much more complicated opponent because of how he's built. And as far as Falcao is concerned, Zerafa believes that he can easily knock him out. Considering the fact that these two have already been involved in a few social media spats, we don't know how well this comment was received by Falcao. At the end of the day, though, Zerafa really just wants to fight Triple G. And while this might be one of the biggest mistakes of his career, Zerafa thinks it's time for him to go up against a bigger name. But why does he want to take the risk? It all goes back to his fight with Tim Tszyu. At this point, everyone's a little confused about why Zerafa wants to fight one of the most seasoned players in the game. Even after the emerging athlete has explained his side of the story, the fans want to know how he's planning on defeating Triple G. And well, let's just say that he knows his limits. After pulling out of his fight with Tim Tszyu at the last minute in July of 2021, Zerafa was starting to lose relevance. His next two fights weren't televised despite his amazing performance in both of them. Why? Because promoters and broadcasters were still pretty mad at him for pulling out of the Tszyu fight. This kind of blockage from the world of boxing sent the athlete into a downward spiral where he even contemplated ending his life. He tried apologizing to his fans, the promoters, the broadcasters, and everyone else whose money was lost in the wake of the situation. So Zerafa wants to make up for all of this. Not just for his fans, but also for himself. But we all know what this means. This is a pretty high-stakes situation. The boxer admitted that it's scary for him to hear his name in the same sentence as Golovkin's. But at the same time, he's proud of himself to have made it to a point where he's getting the opportunity to fight one of his favorite players in the game. Especially after he almost saw his entire career crashing down because of a few missteps. Of course, Zerafa knows that if the fight happens, it will be a hard one to win. Despite that, he is always going to put his best foot forward. "I'm a huge believer in my ability and what I can do and what I can't do," said the boxer. Considering Triple G's recent performances, though, Zerafa believes that he might just be able to defeat him. But if the champion comes in and puts in peak performance, Zerafa will definitely have a hard time beating him. No matter what happens, things are about to get pretty exciting in the world of boxing. That's all for Michael Zerafa's guaranteed shot at the world title. Do you think he has it in him to win this thing?